Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's class. Today, we'll be going through step by step on how we can set up our Selenium Specflow automated test from scratch. Okay, so we have done our manual testing. We know how we do our testing. We know that if we want to test a particular website, we will navigate to the URL. We'll navigate to the URL, and once we have gotten to the URL, we will enter. Once we have gotten to the browser, we'll enter our URL. And once we've entered our URL, we'll start clicking around or entering data into the input field to enable us test and validate whatever functionality or component we want to test. So from our introduction to automation testing, you all know that that is the same thing we do using a software. And one of those software that we can use to test our website and our software are Specflow, Selenium, we'll have Cypress, and we'll have Playwright. So today we'll be focusing on Selenium with Specflow, and the IDE we'll be using, which is our integrated development environment, will be Visual Studio. Okay, so let's quickly go through the step-by-step on how to do that. So on this slide, we'll have step-by-step to creating your first Specflow Selenium test framework from scratch. So the first thing you do is to download your Visual Studio. So for Cypress, you use Visual Studio Code. For your Playwright, you also use Visual Studio Code, and you can use Visual Studio as well. Selenium, you can use Visual Studio Code, you can use your Visual Studio, you can use any IDE that you want for Selenium framework. Okay, so the first one, you download your Visual Studio. If you haven't downloaded your Visual Studio, it's quite straightforward, and I'll walk you through how to do that if you don't have your Visual Studio. So first, you go to the URL, click on the Visual Studio. If you're using Mac, you download the one that is compatible with Mac. If you're using the Linux machine, you download the one that is compatible with Linux. If you're using Windows, you download the one that is compatible with Windows. Okay, so if you already have your if you have your Visual Studio downloaded already, good. We'll go into the next one, which is to integrate Specflow extension with Visual Studio IDE. So we all know what Specflow does for us. Specflow supports BDD, behavioral-driven development. That is what enables us to write our code even when they're using Gherkin syntax, Gherkin language, in simple and plain English, and then we can now interact. We can now execute those steps in using C#, okay, and using C# and the C# will now, because of the Visual Studio Specflow that we've integrated, it will now enable us to execute those tests or those steps that we've written in our feature file in plain English. Okay, so the next one we'll have is to create first test project. So once you have your Visual Studio, you've integrated Specflow, the next thing you want to do is now to create your first test project. You create your first test project. I'll walk us through how to create our first test project. And after you must have created your first test project, the next thing you need to do is you need to create your folder structure. You need to think about all the folders you need. You know, if you will have your books where you will put, I've explained this, where you have put your before scenario and after scenario. If you have your anything you want to have in your before step and after step, if you want to have any test or any code that you want to be executed in your before feature and after feature, this is where it lives. Okay. Then, after your books folder, you also have your feature file folder. You can have your step definition folder. You can have your base page object if you're applying page object model. You can have your page object folder. You can have your utility folder. You can have your enum folder. Anything you want to use to make your test, to make your framework robust and to enable you to reuse code. Basically, this is where you create them under this step where you create your folder structure. And it's very important you understand the folder structure and how to create them. Okay. After that, you add your Nugget packages. This is where you add your libraries, that will enable you perform your automated tests, and I'll walk us through how to do that. And all the Nugget packages will be needing Specflow, will be needing Selenium, will be needing our packaging libraries that will help us to, perform any action or any task we want to perform within our automated test projects. And after that, you create your hooks file, hooks class. So Remember when I was talking about creating your folder structure, I did mention about the hooks. So when you must have created those folders and you've added your Node packages, you need to start creating your files, or you need to start creating your, inside your file, you now create your class. Okay, so after that, you create your hooks class, add everything you want to add inside your hooks class, be it your before, after scenario, whatever you want to add inside them. Okay, but walk through it and we'll do it practical after this slide. So after that, the next thing you need to do, you create your feature file. Like I said, when you create your feature file, you write it in plain English. You write all the tests you want to execute, very simple, the way it will be understood, and you use Gherkin language to do that. After that, you create your step definition file and generate your step definition. So when you must have created your feature file, the next thing you want to do is to convert those in straightforward, simple English, written in Gherkin language. You want to convert it into C#. Okay, and once you create your step definition file, all your step that you've converted into C# with the help of Specflow will live in your step definition. Okay, we'll show you how to do that. After that, the next thing is you create your page objects. You create your page objects. And after creating your page objects, like I explained, okay, I haven't explained it actually. So once you've created your page objects, you can decide to store your elements that you use to interact with the UI component of the website or the software you are automating. You can store it in your page objects. You can decide to store it in a separate file if you want, okay, or you can store it in your page objects. And once you've stored it in your page object, you can also write methods that will execute all these steps in your page object. Okay, so that is the next. So like I said, when you created your page object, I was talking about finding elements on the web page. So when you must have found the elements on the web page, you will store them on your page objects class. Okay. Yeah. And finding your elements in the web page, there are different ways you can find it. You can either find it by ID, you can find it by class name, tag name, any special attribute. You can find them by expert. You can find it by CSS selector. So there are different ways you can locate your elements from the UI. Okay, once you've located it, of course, you need to store it in a variable in your page object. And after that, add element to your page object. I've explained that. Once you've added that element to your page object, you create your test method in your page object. You can also decide to store your element in a different class and also create your method in a different class. But you now need to know how to link them so that they can interact with each other. Okay, so after that, the next thing you need to do is those methods that you've written in your page object, you call those methods in your step definition. You call them in your step definition. Once you've called them in your step definition, the next thing you do is to run your test. Okay, once you've run your test, the test will pass so long as you've done everything right. And then you repeat the same step. You repeat the same step from step number 7 to step number 14 for another scenario in a feature file. Simple. That is everything you need to know for creating and running your automated test. So this is Visual Studio 2022. So if you've opened your Visual Studio, the first thing you will see is this. Let's say you've opened your Visual Studio, you've not loaded any project. This is the screen you will see. Okay, so you can see we have create a new project here. We have open a local folder, we have open a project or solution, and we have clone a repository. So let's say you have a project in your local machine, a project in your Git, could be in the GitHub or your Azure repo. You want to clone it. So you can just click on this, and then it will open a page that will enable you to clone that project. Or you can also use this one to open a project, or solution. Okay, and you can use this one to open a local folder. Then use this particular one to create a new project. Okay, so now we want to, the first thing I said is to create the first step, looking at the first step by step that I did mention. The first thing you have there is to download your Visual Studio, okay, which I believe you all have downloaded your Visual Studio. But if you haven't downloaded your Visual Studio, you go to Microsoft, you can write on your URL, download Visual Studio. It would direct you on how to download it. Pretty much simple. Okay, once you've downloaded your Visual Studio, the next thing you need to do is to integrate your Specflow. I will show you how to integrate your Specflow. Okay, but just to continue, I want us, because I have already integrated my Specflow here, I've already integrated my Specflow, but I will show you, I will continue with creating a project. Once we have created a project, I will show you how to integrate your Visual Studio, your Specflow. Okay, so for you to create a new project, the first thing you do is to click on create a new project. Once you click on create a new project, okay, you will see a screen like this. Screen like this will pop up. Okay, so what you need to do is to come here and search for a template. Click on search for template and search for Specflow. You can search for Specflow. Once you search for Specflow, you can see Specflow project. It's up. So this is a Specflow project. You can see C# Windows Linux Mac, and it's for that. This is a project template for creating executable specification with Specflow. Okay, we want to click on it and we'll click on next. Once you click on next, the next thing that it's asking you to do is to enter the name of your project. Okay, so this is the name of your project. This is where you want to enter the name of the project you are working on. Okay, so let's say, for example, you want to test this test project is to create an automated test project for ABC website, for example. You want to enter the name of that website or the name of that software you are testing. Okay, you want to enter ABC project. So for our own case, we want to automate PrimeSoft. Okay, so we will type in PrimeSoft. Okay, automated test. So this is the name we want to give our project name, PrimeSoft automated test. Now, this place you want to enter the location. Okay, so I will always advise you to ensure that you store your project in your C drive. Okay, so now if you like the default location that you have here, but it's always good to create a folder for your project. And to do that, you click on these three ellipses, browse. So it brings you to your C drive. Okay, once it brings you to your C drive, you can now right-click on your C drive and new folder. Okay, you create a new folder for you. I can call it PrimeSoft okay, automated test project. Okay, so PrimeSoft automated test project is my folder name. Okay, I already have PrimeSoft automated project. So what I want to do is let me rename it. So let me rename it as what is it? PrimeSoft automated test projects. Okay, let me create a new one. So I already have PrimeSoft automated test project. Okay, let me just create a new one and name it something else. New folder. Then I can call it PrimeSoft. Just name it as PrimeSoft. Okay, and then let me select that folder that I created. Created this and I call it PrimeSoft. Yeah, so this is the folder PrimeSoft because I already have PrimeSoft automated test. Okay, and now select it. So you can see the path to this project is go to your C drive and then locate a folder known as PrimeSoft. Okay, so now this tick here, this has been ticked by default, which means that we are placing place solution and project in the same directory. So my solution will live inside the same directory as this project. If I untick it, it will place my solution outside my directory, outside the directory of my project. This doesn't mean anything, but I will just advise you leave it, okay, this way. Okay, just leave it tick so that your solution and your project will be in the same directory. So having done that, the next thing you need to do is you click on create. Okay, once I've clicked on create, yeah, click on create, it's creating for me. So once when I did that create, okay, this is a project that was created. You can see Prime Soft automated test. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So this is the project that was created upon clicking on create. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is to add our, the next thing we want to do now is to add our Nugget packages. Okay, from the step by step. But before we add our Nugget packages, I want to show you how to integrate Specflow to your Visual Studio. Okay, and to do that, you click on extension, you click on manage extension. So once you click on extension and click on manage extension, you come here and type Specflow. So if you click on Specflow, you will see Specflow for Visual Studio 2022, check in green.
Okay.
So if it's check in green, that means you've successfully integrated your Specflow into your Visual Studio. Okay, so if you haven't done that, once you click on it, it wouldn't be checked. You won't have this green check. So what you will do is to click on integrate here. And once you click on integrate, you have to close all your, you have to close your Visual, you have to close your Visual Studio for it to properly integrate and follow the prompt as it comes. Okay, so after that, once you've created, you've downloaded your Visual Studio, you've integrated your Specflow, you've created your project. Now, the next thing you want to do now is to add your Nugget packages. So once you've done that, you'll have a screen like this. You have a screen like this will pop up. Now you want to add your Nugget packages. If you look here, you can see dependencies. Okay, and inside my dependencies, I have some already downloaded packages that came by default for me. Okay, I have Fluent Assertion, which was added by default. I have Microsoft.net.test SDK, and I have NUnit 3 test adapter, Specflow.NUnit, and Specflow plus Living Doc. Okay, those are the packages. So I also have my framework, as you know. So looking at this framework, you can see that this is what MS Microsoft.net core.app. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do, and another thing I also want to mention, because I'm using Specflow, Specflow has added some default folder for me. So it added some default folder, and you can see a calculator test that is on here. Let me just open the calculator. You can see the calculator test, which is, this calculator test is a calculator feature file. Okay, we'll have also calculator state definition. Okay, but we won't be using that, so we'll delete it. We'll delete them later. All right, so following our step-by-step, once you've gotten here, the next thing you need to do from our step-by-step method is to create your folder structure. Okay, which is the fourth one, creating our folder structure. So to create your folder structure, right, so to create your folder structure, you can see all these folders live inside these projects. This is my project. They all live inside the project. So to create your folder, you right click on your project, go to add new folder. Okay, so we have our features folder already. The next folder we want to add is our hooks folder. We've added our hooks folder. The next folder we want to add is page objects folder. Click on here, click on add, then new folder. You can now say page objects. Page objects, click on enter. Right. So having done this, the next thing we want to do, okay, we have created our folder structure. You can see our feature file, you can see our hooks, you can see our page objects, step definition. So we've finished these are the basic folders we will be needing for now. Okay, so you can add more if you want, depending on what you want to add into it. You can start to add util, or you can start to use the support, because support and util could do the same thing. Okay, so after that, the next thing we want to do is to add our NuGet package from our step, which is the step 5, is to add NuGet packages. So NuGet packages, there are different ways you can decide to do it through the command prompt, or you can decide to do it through the Visual Studio UI. And to do that, okay, you click on your solution. So you remember when I was adding my folder structure, I clicked on projects. So now, when you want to add your NuGet packages, you can decide to add it in 2 levels. You can either decide to add it either in your on your solution level, or you add it on your solution level, or you add it on your project level. So here's the difference. If you add it on your project level, only that project that you've added it on will make use of or will access those dependencies or those packages. But if you add it on your solution level, as you can see, one project. So there's only one project in this solution. You can decide to add 2 projects in one solution. But now we have only one project. So if we add these NuGet packages on our solution level, anytime you add another project inside this solution, it would automatically have access and use those NuGet packages that you added. But if you add it on your project level, if you add another project inside this solution, you will have to also add another packages, okay, on that particular project. So we'll add it on our project level. And to do that, we'll right click on our project, go to manage NuGet packages for solution. We'll click on it. So these are the ones that has been downloaded by default because of the framework that we use. Okay, so we'll go to browse. So take note of the NuGet packages that we are downloading. So the first NuGet package we want to download. So this is install. So the first NuGet package we want to download is Specflow. We want to add Specflow. So I'll type Specflow. Type in Specflow, you can see Specflow will come up. I'll click on Specflow. Once I've clicked on it, I'll click on tick both project and solution. You can see project and solution. Once I've done that, scroll down here and click on install. I'll click on OK. That has been installed. You can see the green tick here. So I've installed my Specflow. So the next one we want to install is Selenium. Okay, we want to type in Selenium from here. So once you're typing it in, it will come up. You can see Selenium. So we will be adding Selenium Web Driver, which is this, and Selenium support. Okay, so this Selenium Web Driver is a .NET binding for Selenium Web Driver API. Okay, so the next one we want to do is Selenium support. Okay, we want to install Selenium support. So you can see this you can see what they do. Selenium support provides support class for Selenium Web Driver. So once I install that, scroll and install Selenium support. Okay, you can see Selenium support here. So after Selenium support, we want to add Selenium Web Driver. Okay, which is this. We want to add Selenium Web Driver. So let's go and say Selenium Web Driver. So we want to, so we want to install Selenium .web driver. Yeah, Selenium .web driver. Let's see. Yeah, so see Selenium .web driver. So this is the one we want to install. Okay, so we'll click on it and we'll install. So this is Selenium Web Driver Chrome driver. Can you see Selenium Web Driver Chrome driver? So this is the one that will drive our Chrome browser.
Does it mean question?
Yeah, I'm listening.
So does it mean that for each browser we want to like we desire to test on, we have to add it, we have to download the driver.
Yeah, you have, if you look, you can see selenium.webdriver.internet explorer. So we'll have the Firefox one as well. You have selenium.webdriver.kcode driver. Okay, you have selenium.webdriver.microsoft driver. So yeah, you download them.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're not doing Appian. This is for Appian. Anyway, so now we've downloaded the ones that we need for now. Okay, so we still have some depending on what you want to use it for. Okay, if you want the one for extra weight helper, you can download them. But for now, these are the ones we need. Okay, to set up this framework. Right. So having done that, I'll close this. I'll just close this here. Right. So now that I've closed it, let me just close this dependency as well. So if I double click on my projects, you can see the packages that all the package reference that we've included. Okay, and their versions. You can see we have included WebDriver, .room driver, and the version. We've included Specflow plus living.blog. We have Specflow.NUnit. We have NUnit version. We have NUnit 3. We have Fluent Assertion. Okay, these are it. And these are our folders. These are the folder. This is the XML representation of what we are doing. Okay, so now that we are done, we've added our folder structure. We've added our NuGet package. The next thing from the step that we have is to create a hooks file. Okay, we want to create a hooks file. And how do we create a hooks file? So to create your hooks file, you will come to your hooks folder, right click on it, click on add, new item, click on new item. So once you click on new item, you click on Specflow. Right, so if you haven't integrated Specflow, you wouldn't see the Specflow here. So, but we've integrated it. So once you click on Specflow, you click on Specflow hooks event binding. Okay, we've clicked on it. And then you can now enter the name of your class. So for hooks, you can decide to call it global. You can also decide to call it base test. So we'll use base test. Okay, we'll use base test as our class name, and then we'll click on add. You see base test.cs, and then we'll add. Okay, so once we've added it, you can see it has a template. It comes with a template. Okay, it has a template already, and from our template, we can see our namespace, which is PrimeSoft automated test.hooks. PrimeSoft automated test.hooks, which is our folder structure. That's the namespace. You can see it has a public C class base test. It's adopting the name of our class name, our file name. Okay, base test, and it has a template which is suggesting to you to implement for additional detail on Specflow. This is just giving us, if you want to read more about Specflow hooks, you can just go here, click, and read more about Specflow hooks. But this is just a template. Okay, but on the template, we'll have our before scenario. Okay, attributes, we'll discuss that, and then you have a method under it, and then you have your before scenario again, or equal to 1, you have your after scenario. Okay, that's what Specflow has given to us. Okay, so now we will now implement the code that we want to be executed here, and we want to implement the code that we want to be executed in our before scenario, and whatever we want to be executed in our after scenario. Yeah, so by that, but so doing, I will just clean it up. I'll just clean it up and make it so simple. So I'll clean this up. I'll just delete this, right? And I will also delete all this that is inside. And I will leave the structure as it is. Just delete this. Okay. So just remove this and make it. Just delete the tag. Yeah. So as you can see, we now have a simple and cleaned up structure, those ones that are commented out. I deleted it so that I can leave the template as it is. Then we can now start implementing our code. Okay, so now having cleaned it up, when you look at what we have now, okay, you can see the namespace, and well, you can see the first thing is the using. I think I explained what the using does for us. You can see it's using TechTalk.specflow. Okay. So now, having done this, the next thing we need to do, so the next thing we need to do is to start implementing our code. Okay. We'll start implementing our code here. Like I said, we already know what our using is, what our namespace, okay, is, and we know what our binding is, public sealed class. Okay, we've done access modifiers, we've done what a public set class is, and yeah, you can see public void, public, and the access modifier. We've done what they mean. Okay, so we'll just go ahead to implement the code. Okay, so now, but before we implement the code, let me just take some time out to reiterate what some of these things means. Okay, I know we've gone through it, but I'll just go through it again. So you can see the public sealed class here. Okay, so the public sealed, so the class is marked as sealed here. And the reason why it's marked as sealed means that it will not be inherited by any other class. Okay, that's why we mark it as sealed here. Okay, so we also have our before scenario attributes. And before scenario attributes applies to before scenario method. Okay, any code that we have here will be executed before each scenario. Okay, it would be executed before each scenario. Okay, so let's say, for example, we have declared or initialized our web driver. So before any scenario will run, our web driver will be initialized, or our Chrome driver will be initialized. Any code we have inside our before scenario will be executed before anything. Okay, so then we also have our after scenario attributes and public void after scenario method. And this attribute is applied to the after scenario method, which is this. Okay, this method will be executed after each scenario. Okay, so we could have driver.close, we could have driver.quit. So after every scenario, our web driver section will quit and close. Okay, if we implement that. Okay, so let's start implementing our code. Okay, so we have our public static, our public sealed class. So the next thing we want to have inside our public sealed class is we want to create a static web driver instance. Okay, named driver. Okay, so how do we do that? We'll do that by saying public static versus static iWeb driver, iWeb driver. Okay, so after we have done that, what we'll do is we will now come inside our public void. Okay, after our public void before scenario, and type in driver equal to new Chrome driver. Driver equal to new Chrome driver. New Chrome driver. Okay, so once we have driver equal to new Chrome driver, we want to put this bracket open and close. Then we can type in this code as well. So remember that you can just have driver equal to new Chrome driver, and that will work. But we don't want it that basic. So we can have driver dot get directory name. Okay, we can now add another bracket, open and close, and then type in assembly. Assembly, then dot get exec. Plus get executing assembly. My starting it to come up here. Okay, just keep typing. Executing assembly. We'll resolve it once I'm done. I'll get executing assembly, then we can have our brackets open and close. And then outside our brackets open and close, we can put dots location. Okay, so let's see what we have. Put a semicolon. Okay, so we can see this is. So let's try and resolve this. To resolve this, you just hover on it, and then come here, you will see. Let me see if there's something we're missing. Yeah.
It's waiting to get executing assembly.
Yeah, does not contain definition of get executing assembly. So let's see if we can resolve this. Okay. So yeah, so you can see how I did this one, right? I hover on this and then let me do it again. So once we hover on this, right, you go on here, you see potential, show potential fix. So the reason why this is showing red is because we do not have the right using. So once you click on this, you click on show potential fix, you click on using openqa.selenium.chrome driver.chrome, this first one. So once we click on that, that will resolve this issue. Okay, so let's look at this one. So the reason why this is showing up red is we do not need this assembly.load event. Okay, so we'll just remove it. That's why it's showing. So what we wanted is path.getDirectory_name.assembly. Okay, so we'll just put .assembly. Yeah, and then we can resolve this assembly, show potential fix using we'll add this using, which is using system.reflection. Once we add that, see everything is okay. So everything is okay now, it's been resolved. So we have created a new instance of Chrome driver. So we'll have driver equals to new Chrome driver. So what we did here was to what? Create a new instance of Chrome driver. And the web driver is and the next thing we will do is to configure our web driver to maximize. So once you run this code, what you would do is it would create an instance of a Chrome driver and will navigate you to, will open up a URL. We'll shoot Chrome driver up. If we do that, okay, let's see. Let me show you, for example, if we decide to execute this now, let's just run this. First, get solution. You can see this building just started, build succeeded. So if I execute this, I should execute it from there. So we do not have any test yet, so let me not execute it, but I will show you what I mean later. Okay, so now once this web driver, once our Chrome has opened, the next thing we want to do is to ensure that we maximize our window. Okay, so we will now add a code that will maximize our window, and that will be driver dot manage then manage is a method. Okay, we'll put bracket open and close dot window. Okay, dot maximize. So I want to maximize the window. Okay, so I have to accept. Yeah. So what we're doing now is before every scenario, we want our window to. Okay, I have something here that I need to. Let me just remove this. Yeah, before scenario. Okay. So what we want to do here is before every scenario, okay, we want to create a new instance of a Chrome driver. Okay, and once we create a new instance of a Chrome driver, we want the window to maximize. If we don't add this code, if we create a new instance of a Chrome driver, the window will not maximize. it will be minimized. So that's why we're having this. But once I'm done, I will run it. I will comment this code out and run it. You will see that the window will not maximize. Okay, so this, I will just want to leave these two code here for now. We can also, if we want, you can also add another code that will manage cookies. Okay, we can say, if we want to manage our cookie, we can say driver dot manage cookies dot delete all cookies. So you can see it's coming up. Delete all cookies. So if we have any cookies, we want driver to delete them. Okay. So now this, we'll just leave this one for now. Of course, you can make it add many other things. I shared Selenium document, Selenium repo with us, and all the codes that you need. There, if you go there, you see all these ones here. All these ones, you see this one, this one. You can also see this one, right? This, so it creates an instance of your Chrome driver. You might not see this one anyway. So having done that, we want to come to our after scenario. Our after scenario, what we want to be done after scenario is that we just want our driver to close and quit after our scenario. So we'll just simply apply driver dot quit, and then we also apply driver dot close. Okay, this is just what we want to be done after scenario. So having done that, let's save. I want to delete, before I start doing it, I want to delete this calculator feature. So I'll just right click and delete. And then I want to delete this step definition as well. Calculator, click and delete. Yeah. So we have done that now. So the next thing we want to do, we are done with our hooks. The next thing we want to do is to create a feature file. We want to create a feature file. Okay, and to create a feature file, just like we did for the hooks, right? We'll come here and right click on the feature, click on add, then click on new. Remember, for the hooks, we'll click on Specflow and then click on Specflow hooks event binding. This time around, click on Specflow and click on feature file for Specflow. You're no longer clicking on this feature file for Specflow. So you click on feature file for Specflow, it will have dot feature on it. So you click, you remove this name and name it whatever feature you want to test. Let's say we want to test the homepage, because for today we'll be navigating to the URL, to the homepage of PrimeSoft. We can say PrimeSoft homepage. So what we want to do is to navigate to homepage. If time permits, if time permits, we'll navigate on the homepage and we'll assert that a particular feature is visible, okay, on the homepage. Yeah. So PrimeSoft homepage, that's the name of our feature. We'll add. So once we've added, you can see a template as well, just like that of the home, hooks. We'll have a template, and inside the template we'll have our feature, which takes the name. If you could recall when we went through. So if you could recall when we went through checking, I was talking about features. I was talking about scenarios, given, when, then, and all that. So you can see them coming into play. You can see the scenario. You can see your feature. Your feature will take the name of your feature file. Okay, we'll have PrimeSoft homepage. That's our feature, PrimeSoft homepage. So this is where you add a short story, a brief story, okay, or a brief description of your feature. Okay, so you can say, depending on how you want to write it, anyway. So you can say, depending on how you want to write, you can say, this is a feature file for PrimeSoft homepage. Okay, you could leave it like this, just this simple. But then, if you want to be user-centric, okay, which is always advised as a software tester, you could also leave it this way. which is, I would say, the industrial standard, as you can have it this way, as a user. Okay, I want to visit, or I want to navigate to primed soft homepage. So I can view the page. You can just leave it like this, so you can view the page. You want to navigate to the home page, so you can view the page. Okay, so let's say you want to automate login. You can say, as a user, I want to log in. Okay, so I want to navigate to the website, so I can log in. Just a brief discussion that describe what you want to automate. Okay, so now one thing you need to pay attention to is whenever you create your feature file, you want your feature file to bind. So this area needs to be purple. You can see the context, the action, and the outcome need to be in purple color. Okay, and this is blue as well. So it needs to appear like this. If it didn't appear like this, save, clean, and build. This is how to clean your project. You save, okay, click on, if it didn't appear like this, what you need to do is save, then click on build, click on clean solution, clean your solution. Once clean is successful, clean succeeded, okay, go ahead and build your solution. Build. So once build is successful, you can see no error. Once build is successful, this will come purple and green. If that didn't happen, then you have made a mistake somewhere. If that didn't happen, you have made a mistake somewhere. Okay, so now, having done that, I want to write my feature file. So for now, I will only be writing one step so we can navigate to the website. So to do that, I'll write just like the way you write your test case, giving user navigates to PrimeSoft. Websites. Okay, so we want to add the URL here. We want to parameterize it and add the URL here. Okay, so I'll add the URL there so we can navigate to the website. Let me just get the URL for that. So the URL is http PrimeSoft. I'll just add it there. Yeah, so we just added the URL to the website. So let's say, for example, we want to navigate to this website and we want to click on Let's Talk, and outside that Let's Talk page is displayed. So we'll enter, giving user navigate to PrimeSoft website. We've added the PrimeSoft website. When user click on Let's Talk, then Let's Talk page displayed. That's how it will show. But for now, I will only do this, navigate to the URL, and then we can continue with the rest if that permits. I want to do this end to end. Okay, so having done that, we've created only one step. I'll just delete this one. So yeah, we can add it later. So we've created only one step. Don't forget to add your scenario. Okay, you need to add your scenario. Verify. In this case, we want to verify user can view PrimeSoft homepage. So verify user can view PrimeSoft homepage. So that's our scenario. If you have other scenario when you are doing automated tests, you can always add all those scenarios. Okay, you can add all the scenarios. So that is step. I want to be following the steps so you see how they kind of link together. So the first, that scenario that we are now is to create our feature file, which we have created. The next thing we want to do is to create our step definition. Now, there are two ways you can create your step definition. You can either decide to come here the same way we were doing it, right click, create. You can either come here and right click, click on add and new. Let's say click on new, for example. Then if you want to do this, you go and now click on code. You will no longer click on anything here. What you need to do is to click on code and then enter the name of your step definition. You can say that the name of your step definition could be, you could name it homepage step definition. Okay, and then click on add. You will have your step definition here. Then you can now right click, generate your step, and then go and paste it inside your step definition. We will do that later. Another way you can also do it, if you are creating step definition for that particular feature file for the first time, you can automatically do it this way, which is right click on your step, click on define step. If you click on go to definition, let's say for example, I clicked on go to definition, it will give us a snippet of our step definition, for our feature file converted into a C# template. We could copy this and go and paste there if we have created the class, but we haven't. So now that I've not created the class, let me just say no. Another way you can do it is right click on your step, click on define step. You see, you can decide to copy it and go the other way if you've created the file. But because we are doing it for the first time for that particular feature, okay, so all we need to do is to click on create. It automatically takes this name for us, which is using the name of the feature file. You can see class name. It's creating the class for us. The class name will be PrimeSoft homepage step definition. If we don't like it, we can rename it. Okay, but it's okay for us. Okay, so all you need to do now is just to click on create. Once you've done that, it will create this class for you, public class, PrimeSoft homepage. Okay, with this, you can see this regex expression, which is this regex expression is representing our URL, the URL that we added, because we'll be passing the URL. Okay, so you can see our binding, which is very important. If I remove this binding, we won't be able to run our tests because the step definition, the feature file will not bind with the step definition. It will not interact, okay, with the assemblies that guide this step definition. Okay, so now, another thing I also want to mention is if you have done it the other way, which is create your class, by creating your class file here, and then right-clicking on your feature file, copying it and pasting it here, this class will not come back. This binding attribute will not be here by default. It will not come here by default. You will need to add it. You will need to add it. If you don't add it, your test will not run. Okay? So take note of that. It is very important. It's very, very important. Okay? So what the binding attribute, okay, does for us is it indicates that this class contains Specflow step definition. And you know the Specflow step definition, Specflow is what enables us to write our code in this format, giving you a certificate. I'll write our test in this format, plain English, and then convert it to our step definition. So if I want to go back to where we are, I'll just right click and click on go to definition. It brings me back here. Okay, so now we have done that. We have done step number, what is that again? Step number 8. Okay, so now let's go to step number 9, which is create project page objects. So inside our page objects, so know that you can continue to write your test here, your automated test scripts in your step definition. It's fine. If you go to a lot of organizations, you have their framework this way. They have their feature file, they have all their text inside their step definition. So what happens with this is, if you are doing this, you have your elements stored in here, you have your method, you write your method, including with your elements. And then if you want to reuse a particular element, you will need to duplicate it. You will duplicate it. If you go most of Cypress framework, once they have everything, they add everything in the same place. Although you can also implement page object model with Cypress. You can also implement behavior-driven development with Cypress, okay, using Cucumber. Right. So let's continue. So for our page objects, creating your page object class, okay, what we need to do is to create our class. Right, click on the page object, click on add, click on new item. So once we've done, click on new item, we'll click on code, and we can now give our page object a name. And this name will be the class name. So we'll give it, because of course we want to make it all of them to be uniform. Naming convention is very important. We want to say primed soft homepage objects. Okay, so click on add, then you have our class. So recall one I was saying that this could be an interview question that they could ask you when you're doing your automated test. What is the default access modifier? It's an interview question. They can ask this. What is the default access modifier when you create a class? This is the answer. Internal. Okay, it's internal. So, but we'll change it to public because we want other class to access whatever we have here. So we'll make it public. Right. So having done that, there are a few things that we need to do around our our page objects. First, you can see we have our using, we also have our namespace, and we have a class, public class, PrimeSoft homepage. Okay, so this is our page object class. Okay, we want to create an instance of a web drive here. Okay, and we'll make it public to allow other class. Okay, which is a to allow other class to access it. Okay, and how do we do that? We'll start by saying, going inside the class, okay, and having public iWebDriver. You can see I'm typing iWeb, I and W capital uppercase, iWebDriver, driver. Yep. Okay. So having done that, okay, so this iWebDriver instance is public, as you can see. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to initialize the instance of that driver. And how do we do that? We will write in the constructor. Okay, we'll write public outside this. Okay, yeah. So let me give it space. Back. And then inside line 14 is where I want to type. Yeah, line 14. So we want to write a method, okay, which is public we'll make use of this because you know it would have the same name as this, okay, which is public PrimeSoft homepage objects. Then we'll put semicolon, a quotation, yeah, open and close brackets, and then a curly braces. Click on enter. And the next thing we'll have is driver equal to. So we're creating the instance of a base test that will have base tests. Yeah, this is it. Base test dot driver. Okay, So now, what does this constructor, what does it do? So this constructor initialize the driver member. Okay, this constructor that we've done here, written here, initialize the driver member, okay, by assigning the value of base test class to this driver. Okay, and what does this do for us? It ensures that our page object uses the same WebDriver instance across all the tests. Okay, so now, so we have done with writing our constructor and then initializing our WebDriver. Okay, so now, recording what we wanted to do is to have a step that we want to automate, okay, which is so giving user navigator PrimeSoft. Okay, we will go to this is a step, and we want to write our method. So now we are jumping some step because this is the first one. To navigate to your URL or to your home page, you do not need to interact with any element from your web page because you're just navigating. It's just like getting your URL, entering your URL into your browser, okay, and then clicking on enter. So you don't interact with any element for this one. So hence why we are jumping. We are going to jump, find your element on the web page and add your elements on the page objects, which is 10 and 11. Okay, but we will still create a test method to navigate to URL. Okay, we'll create a test method that is responsible for navigating to a specific URL, and we'll do that on our page objects. We'll do that on our page objects. Let's go to our page objects. Yeah, then to do that, just give space. Yeah, so to do that, we will call on the driver dot what I want to say is driver yeah. So why is it? Yeah, driver dot not on the driver command. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to start with public static. We need to write a method first. So I'm just leaving the method. So public void, because we're not returning anything, that's why we're using void. Public void, we want to write a method, and our method we want to use navigate. Okay, for our method because we want to navigate. Yeah. So inside our method, remember that we have our URL parameterized as a string from our homepage, from our feature file. So this is our URL we're passing as a string. Okay, so that's why in our step definition, we'll just pass a parameter, an argument of string. It's a parameter string URL. Okay, so having done this, we'll now put brackets open and close, and then click on enter. So what we want to do is driver.navigate go to URL. Yeah, so we have driver.navigate. Navigate is the method saying that should navigate and then go to URL. So now we've written the method that handles our navigation. The next thing we want to do is to call this method in our step definition. So we have our step definition here. We want to call the method in our step definition. But before we're able to call our method in our step definition, we want to create an instance of this page object in our step definition so that our step definition will interact with our page objects. Okay, so this is our step definition. You get the step definition. Class, okay, a page object class name, then go to your step definition and create the instance of our page object in our step definition so that they can interact. Okay, and to do that, the next thing we need to do is come here and paste it under the class. Paste our method, and then our constructor, which is homepage. Decide to put underscore if we want. We can say underscore homepage. Equal to new homepage step prime soft homepage objects. Okay, equal to homepage prime soft homepage objects, and then semicolon. Okay, so now we'll be making use of this constructor, okay, to interact with whatever we have in our whatever method we have in our page objects. And to do that, we'll now remove this here and now write underscore homepage. You can see it here. Dot. You can see navigate. This is our method. And inside here, we want to pass our string variable name, URL, and URL. Yeah. So having done this, we can write, as you know, this is the last step. Okay, once you've created your method, you will call your method in your step definition and you run your test. That is 13 and 14. Okay, so if we run this, let's build our solution. I say our scenario. If we run it, so what I will do is, if I run it, it will navigate to the website and it will close because we'll have after scenario. So what will happen is, looking at our feature file, we'll have, so looking at our feature file, we'll have giving user navigate to the website. So what it will do is, it will navigate to the website, and after the scenario, this our before scenario will execute, which is this one. So what it does is, it creates an instance of a Chrome browser. After that, it will navigate, it will maximize the window. Okay, we'll run this one as well. Then once it has executed this, it will now come to our scenario, execute this. After this scenario, it goes back to what we have in our after scenario, driver.wait and driver.close, and it will close. So let's run this and see. You can see. You can see the website, it has closed. Okay, so he navigated to the URL, and then it says instead of passing, it failed. So let's see why that happened. Okay, so let's open our test log and see why that happened. Cannot access disposed objects. So this was done. Cannot access disposed objects. Okay, so let's look at what we have and why that has happened. Okay, let's look at, we have driver dots. Okay, so what I will do is, let me just say, let me close before quitting. Okay, close. Quit. Okay, so let me run it again. So watch what will happen. So let's run. So watch out, it's running now. Can you see the website opened? So what I will do is to comment. I will comment out this page so you will see that it's actually open because it was quick. Okay, let's comment out this page, or let's comment out this. Okay, so let's run it again. So you wouldn't run after scenario. Yeah, can you see that? Yes. Yeah. So you can see Chrome is being controlled by automated test software. So the reason why you didn't see it before was because I have driver.quit and driver.close. So it would run the test and it will run the test. Once it navigates to the website, it will just close immediately. After scenario will close. Okay, so that's why you had that. That's why it was weak. Well, because I commented that driver.close and driver.quit, okay, once you run it, you would navigate. So nothing to run, there's no code to run on our before after scenario. So that's why we still have this. So let's say, for example, you want to do something else, you want to click on this. This is now where you now repeat from. You will repeat from step 7, okay, to 14. And this time around, you come here. What I meant by interact by finding elements is what I meant by that is once let's say you want to click on this particular element, you will come here, right click and inspect. Okay, you right click and inspect and look for the, and let's say you want to click on this, you look for the element that you can use to interact with this particular one. Let's say let's talk, for example. You can look for the element to interact with that. But this one we'll do it in our next class. Okay, let's say this one. So this is where you get the elements. You can see this one that is highlighted. Is where you get the element to interact with this. But we'll build this in our next class. Okay, and that's it for class. Let me close this. So if I uncomment this again, run it, you can see our test has passed because it successfully navigated to the URL. Just navigate, close. Yeah, so that's it. Any question?